Hey, today I just want to talk about how I just feel like a lot of people want to find a meaning in life, right? You probably have a desire that keeps you striving to improve, keeps you striving to live another day, right? All of us have something that keeps us inherently wanting to live another day. Now, I'm not talking strictly about us humans, right? Like we all want to live, right? That's just our bodily needs, right? We need food, water, shelter, right? And we need like a lot of things. But I'm talking more about what drives us, right? What keeps us actually doing things in life, right? Not besides just existing, right? A lot of us might feel as if we need to find something constantly we want to be doing, right? That's why a lot of humans I feel like want to be productive in a way. It's interesting to think about how not many people are literally willing to just stand and stare at a wall for hours, right? Try to do that yourself. Try to stare at a blank wall right now for 5 hours straight. Bet many of you can't do that. Now, it's probably not just due to how our brain has developed and changed due to the emergence of social media and films, right? Like maybe our attention span's much worse than back then. Like But yeah, I just feel like humans in general just desire something, and we all have something we want to chase for, right? Whether it doesn't have to be something materialistic like money, could also just be simply happiness, joy, maybe helping someone, like maybe your grandmother's going through cancer, you just want to help them. And humans, I feel like, are selfish creatures inherently, but we are also caring creatures. I feel like humans do like collaboration. We like working with others, generally speaking. We like to be accepted, right? So that brings me to the next point, which I feel like many humans are just way too terrified of failure. Like, I'm not talking about just failure from your math exam or a physics exam. Like, oh my, like what should I do? Like if I fail this, I can't get into a good university or I can't graduate. Like this is my lifeline. I need to pass this test or exam right now. I'm gonna pull all-nighter, drink a bunch of coffee, and you know, I freaking hate my life, but I'm gonna deal with it. I feel like that mentality can be very toxic. People who just do things just because they want to avoid failure, just because of chasing one goal itself. I feel like it's important to look more at life holistically. Life doesn't all have to be this black and white picture you ingrained into your mind, right? So today, hopefully, I can do some convincing. A lot of things I will be mentioning are going to be unpopular opinions, and don't take everything I say, objectively. A lot of this is just from my own worldview. I'm a flawed human being, just like you. But hopefully, you can learn something, and hopefully, this will give you better understanding and more insight on how others may view the world, right? So, yeah. So, the first point I want to make is that I just feel like a lot of us just distract ourselves from death, right? We all fear the inevitable. One day we are gonna vanish. We're gonna distinguish and disappear from the face of the earth. We are gonna be a corpse. We're gonna be underneath the soil, right? That's where all humans gonna end up going, right? We're all gonna die. That is like the one probably objective truth I can guarantee that's gonna happen to all of us. We're all gonna die one way or another. Now, I know that is not a very exciting picture to imagine in your mind. If you're watching this, you probably don't want me to just keep talking about stuff like this, death. It's a very heavy topic. And yeah, I shouldn't really joke about death. Like, it's a serious topic. But I just want you to think about it, okay? I feel like a lot of us don't really think about death itself. When was the last time you thought about yourself straight up dying, like just out of nowhere? Like probably not unless you're going through a lot of saints, maybe trauma, or you're in a hospital right now. But for the vast majority of us healthy, I would say functioning human beings in the workforce or going to school, you probably don't think about it on a daily basis. Sure, you might think about it once in a blue moon, or if you're going through a lot of physical, mental pain, right? But generally speaking, we don't tend to really gravitate towards it unless we have to, or our human inherently decides to, focus on it. But yeah, so that's interesting to think about. So I'm gonna move on to another point. I'm gonna jump quite fast because there's a lot of things I've been thinking for the past week at work. Been working overtime, 12-hour shifts in a dang factory. So yeah, my mind right now is very fast paced right now. Been thinking about a lot of things, right? So as all of you might know, we all live in an open society. Basically, all of us are living in a society where we have lots of options, right? We get to pick what career choice we get to, become. And that sort of almost becomes our entire personality sometimes. Like when you go to your birthday party, you probably tell people, oh, I'm a police officer, or I'm an engineer. You don't say who you are as a person, you say what you are, right? What your career choices, and that pretty much defines us as our social role in this social structure society has ingrained us to do, right? It's capitalist society. And I feel like a lot of people end up having a massive identity crisis sometimes because they realize that you is this really all we are? Are we just like workers? Are we just consumers? Are we just people that just do things collaboratively, just to achieve a certain task? Like, sure, we humans are so much more than just cogs in machine. We're so much more than just straight up robots, right? There has to be much more meaning to life. And why is this so common for humans to fear failure? Maybe it has to do with the education system, how failing exam can mean that you lose almost a piece of yourself. It's almost like you're losing your part of your identity, right? If you don't end up getting a job that you're satisfied with, your entire livelihood is at stake. People won't treat you like with respect if you're working a shitty job, right? Like fast food, grocery store, like a factory. Like you have to work a reputable or a nice, respectable position or get a good, nice paying job. And I feel like that is the mentality a lot of us are almost forced to ingrain ourselves in. And it's unfortunate how we end up not looking past that for many of us. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are unemployed or need hikikomoris, shut-ins, who don't have work. Great, you're probably blessed, but I'm sure you still constantly, restlessly strive to improve or do something every day, right? Like life is boring if we just stand still, stare at the wall. There is always something in the back of our mind itching for us to do something. Doesn't matter how big and small. I'm not saying that everybody wants to be the CEO and change the dang world, right? It could be as little as just drinking water or drinking a nice cup of tea, right? It's just interesting to think about how we don't tend to subconsciously or consciously even think about this, right? We think about materialistic things like money all the time, but we don't think about stuff that makes us actually human. That's the issue. I feel like a lot of us end up being indoctrinated to a society that just involves too much on maintaining order and structure and making us believe that life is actually been like this for the entire, history of humanity, right? Like we always worked with money. We always worked with trying to improve technology, right? But in fact, we didn't. I feel like a lot of us just end up not forgetting that we're human beings. It's really sad in this world. And so many people end up having a false sense of their meaning in life. They think what they envision in a life is the objective truth, right? And is the definitive version of life that matters. Everybody else's opinions do not matter. It's just unfortunate. So another thing I just want to talk about is that back then we lived in a closed society where pretty much, let's say you're a peasant and farmer. You didn't have a choice of your future, right? You might think of that as a bad thing, and I think that's the reason why a lot of us end up having identity issues, is because we have so many options nowadays. No matter how you put it, we have much more freedom now than back then. The career choice, options in life, with more options means more indecisiveness. A lot of us end up just becoming lazy or procrastinating, not wanting to do something because there are so many dang options. Back then, you had no choice. You were to be a slave, be exploited, or you to die, right? Nowadays, you have this and that. Like, what color headset should I get for my computer? Like, what candy? It's like so many options, right? Like like when you go trick or treating Halloween, it's like with more choices comes more responsibility, comes more indecisiveness, just comes more risk. You know, it feels like life is streamlined in a way, sure, but it also comes with a lot of options, commodities, products you buy, like on Amazon, right? So basically, what I'm trying to say is that we as humans don't end up honestly even focusing on the present anymore. We focus way too much on the past and future. We regret way more than back then, I feel like. We always think of what we would, could, or should have done in the past, right? I know I regret a lot of things in life. Like, why did maybe I should have taken school more seriously. Maybe I could have joined more clubs. Maybe could have made more friends. And a lot of us focus on the future, right? Like, I want to be a successful engineer. I want to be making like 3 figures each year, like 6 figures each year, trying to ultimately retire early. I want to travel the world. And it feels like a lot of us just end up chasing a lot of things that honestly don't seem to actually matter, right? Sure, in our eyes, it matters so much, but if you look in the bigger picture, we're just a dot on the universe. Our existence doesn't actually matter. It's almost like the way society is constructed is designed to distract us from the inevitability of death and makes us fear failure and makes us ultimately live the way we are in a way that benefits society and this capitalist, you know, like society we live in. And it's unfortunate how a lot of people just look at life that way. And yeah, us humans, we are basically selfish. We prioritize our own survival over others based on pretty much Darwinism and natural selection, right? The survival of the fittest, king of the hill. If you ever played those games where it's the last man standing, this is pretty much how it is, as well as the book Lord of the Flies, right? We inherently care about our own survival. We are gonna take all the food and water for ourselves in dire situation because that's just how our body, functions, right? We don't really have much control over it, unfortunately. It's just the way us humans behave, right? Like how flowers crave water. They'll wither and die if some flowers and plants don't get enough sunshine and water. And talking about another thing, I want to talk about 2 feelings that humans have. Now, can you guess the feelings? I'm gonna write it on a board to maybe make this more interactive. I'll give you a couple seconds to guess. Okay, so these are the 2 feelings. I might end up writing it backwards. Hopefully it's not backwards. Let me know in the comments if I wrote these 2 backwards. But yep, it's revenge and guilt. So revenge, a lot of people look at it in a very binary opposition manner, right? Like good versus evil, liberal versus conservative, empty versus full, clean versus dirty, right? Revenge is honestly not even a bad, feeling to have if you look at it the other way. Like sometimes you have to look at the glass half full in a way. So basically, revenge itself can be a powerful motivator for someone. It could be enough to just get someone out of bed and start doing things they never would have imagined doing. And sometimes you just need to put that negative force and energy into something positive, right? Really interesting to think about. Another feeling is guilt, right? We all felt guilt sometimes. Maybe, okay, this probably doesn't really happen to you that often. In fact, might have happened to you once, but basically, let's say you're driving 90 kilometers per hour in a residential neighborhood, right? And you ram into the back and trunk of another car, right? You probably feel guilt. Probably guilt for yourself. Now, guilt itself is a very, you could say, self-centered, self-derived, almost like a selfish, like a self-punishment in a way. Like when we feel guilty, we feel bad for ourselves for doing it. We feel like, oh no, why did I do that? Like, we just feel like crap. Like, we wish it never happened. And I feel like it's almost like we're concerned more about ourselves than the victim, right? You probably care way more about yourself, paying for the damage, than the person you hit the car with. Like, sure, you might care about the well-being, like hopefully they didn't pass away or die, right? But I'm sure you're caring more for your own survival. You're caring like, oh no, am I going to jail? Like, ultimately, us humans, we're selfish, right? So we can prioritize ourselves subconsciously, even if you don't think you're gonna do that. Sure, in the back of your head, you're gonna think something like along the lines of that. And moving to another point, I know I'm jumping really rapidly. There's a lot to cover, okay? So basically, I just feel like a lot of us are just brainwashed and indoctrinated to whatever ideology and religion we raised in, right? Similar to how our personality gets developed through nurture and nature, right? Pretty much, it could also work the other way, right? Let's say your parents were abusive, right? But they were also Christian. You probably have a natural, tendency to not like Christians in general, or you just end up being atheist, right? You tend to antagonize Christianity because your parents gave Christianity a bad rep because they were bad parents, right? Maybe they were abusive. So it could go both ways, right? And some of us end up living our entire life just fixating on that particular thing. And unfortunately, it really makes our worldview super shallow. So interesting to think about again, how life is actually not as black and white as you might think it is. And yeah, another thing is that I just feel like it's unfortunately, I just feel like a lot of us just unfortunately are just like machines and robot. Our main objective is to just contribute to the society. All of us, I feel like, ultimately just ends up contributing to society. That's ultimately what's deemed as a social norm, socially acceptable. If you are a NEET, hikikomori, unemployed, shut in, who stay home all day, don't contribute to society, you're rotten, you're garbage, right? Unfortunately, that's how we depict humans that are lazy, don't work. Like, we are pretty much have to have a job, right? Just to function, just to live, we have to pay to survive. And then on top of that, that has to be our identity. We have to fake it till we make it. There's a whole lot of talk about that, which I mentioned before, but just unfortunate. And I feel like a lot of us just end up feeling like this because a lot of us fear death, okay? I feel like a lot of us just end up distracting ourselves as the products, commodities, like playing on a video game or like watching a movie or just doing whatever that distracts us from the inevitable, right? Death itself. And it's unfortunate how like so many of us just end up focusing on our own legacy, right? We want to live a fulfilling life. We don't want to die, living as a bum. We want to accomplish something in life. Doesn't matter. All of us want to wrestling, strive for something, and try to do something before we die, right? And it feels like unfortunate how that's what majority of people just care about. Like, life is, sometimes you just need to take a step back and just enjoy life as it is, right? You don't have to take it so seriously. And going back to what I mentioned about culture and religion, I feel like it's almost like a tranquilizer. It's like anesthesia, right? It pretty much tranquilizes our feelings of hopelessness and by distracting us in a way. Like, pretty much that is the framework and beliefs we're going to follow. And we're going to live a fulfilling life. If we just believe in this God, or if we just believe in this particular political ideology, we're going to have a family to share similar beliefs and values. Everything's going to be fine, right? It just feels like a lot of people just take things for what it is, take things for granted. They don't think outside the box. biggest issue is that there's so much more than just, it just feels almost like a cult in a way, these things. And going back to that, the cult, there's a term you might not know. It's called optimism cult. You probably see on YouTube a lot, right? Where there's a lot of self-help YouTubers, right? Or like Money Max, Muscle Max, people telling you how to gain muscle, right? Or trying to live a more fulfilling life. Those YouTubers would probably like write something like, step 1, you need to get protein in your diet. Step 2, you want to get sleep. Step 3, you want consistency. Then you will ultimately get all the girls you can. Right? These influencers that want you to live life a certain way. Now, I'm not saying that what they're saying is wrong. I'm just saying that the way and plan and framework they give you might not work very well, right? There isn't a cookie cutter way of living life. Some of us just try to live life based on how others live life. For example, Elon Musk might say he only gets 5 hours of sleep. That's how he's able to make money. Now, just because he gets 5 hours of sleep doesn't mean everybody is going to benefit from it, right? It depends on as a person. Some people need more sleep than others. Some people might only need 4 hours of sleep, and some people can function only with 10 hours of sleep, right? So we should really start thinking outside the box when it comes to things like this. Yeah, just ultimately unfortunate how like all these things distract us from the fact that life is meaningless and absurd, right? And in fact, it's actually healthy to look at life as it is meaningless. Let me explain why. Because a lot of people have a fear of failure, right? Like, if you fail this exam, your life is over, right? Sometimes you just need to take a step back and just look at life as a bigger picture. We're just inside a very small planet that is part of a pretty small galaxy, which is part of big universe, right? So, yeah. And I feel like the most obvious reason why people tend to honestly gravitate towards ideology or plan to follow is that all of us are fear of uncertainty, right? We like being stable, like either financially stable or job security. That's why we don't really like volatility, right, in the economy or stock market. We like being reliable things in general, right? Reliability is very important. And I feel like that's why a lot of people just want to follow a social construct, such as morality, which is a completely different topic. But basically, morality, I believe, is a social construct. A lot of people think morality is the natural order of things. It's the natural state of nature, right? But in fact, I think morality was designed and socially engineered and conditioned by civilization and society just to almost oppress and conform us into doing things that benefit a certain group of people, right? And you could argue that morality itself is what binds us together. It keeps us from raising our fish forks and hurting and going full to purge on folks, right? Murdering each other. But yeah, if you think about it, there's a completely different way of thinking for morality for people in the upper class and people who are peasants, right? People in the upper class can look at morality as courage, as control, as authority, as obedience, right? Those are positive traits, they might think. While a peasant may focus more on self-sacrifice, altruism, philanthropy, right? Those things as morality. It's almost like depending on where you live, depending on how you grew up, you will view morality very differently. And that's why I feel like it's not good to look at terms like this very in a black and white manner. Too many people focus on binary oppositions, right? Like good versus evil, clean versus dirty. Like, can't really blame people. We do that subconsciously all the time, right? We're like, hey, this guy's beautiful, that guy's ugly, right? It's just human nature, unfortunately. And if you look at it, we all want to identify ourselves as more granular and successful and significant than we actually are. In fact, we're just a dot on the universe. We're just pretty much we're just dumb animals, right? Animals, we're just functioning beings that just like try to find the meaning of life where we fail to do that. And all of us end up being super biased about ourselves. We think we're the best. We think we know pretty much everything. Everybody else is just our enemy at the end of the day, right? And yeah, so basically, one thing I forgot to mention is that basically, if you're a peasant, you basically have the slave morality. I feel like that's why a lot of people just end up feeling like, why is it always that the good people always die, right? Like, good guys finish last, right? I guess that's just the way life is. And yeah, basically, a lot of people end up being dogmatic with the way they grew up with ideology, right? Dogmatic means that they believe whatever they see as inherently true. Like it's pretty much true by nature itself. And maybe society has pushed it that way, like social norms itself, like pretty much. There's just so many things we take for granted and take for what it is, but it might actually be socially constructed by society itself. Like morality itself might not be there back then. Even just the ability to vote, right? We take it for granted. Like not everybody had the ability to vote back then. Same with like in general, like social norms, like wearing clothes, right? Like when is wearing clothes become socially acceptable, right? Sometimes we just don't look at the tiny things like that, but we focus way too much on things like, I want to get a good grade in this freaking exam. And yeah. And yeah, honestly, that's just really I want to talk about today. I know it's a very long video, but I really just wanted to get this off my chest. I guess there's actually one last thing I want to mention. But if you're still here, I'm very grateful you're still here. Basically, like, there's three types of people, right? Basically, the first type of people... Here, I'm going to illustrate this. So basically, the first type of person is going to be someone who's constantly, restlessly striving to do something, right? Whether it's trying to help their mother overcome addiction, maybe you're trying to get a good job, or just trying to simply make life a better place, right? And the second type of person is someone who is not nihilistic, right? Someone maybe who doesn't really have a purpose or meaning to life. They see that life is just this emptiness. I don't know. I don't see the point. And the third type is probably the like less than 1% of our population. It's pretty much like a sage. He is someone who has no desire at all. He just views life as just it as it is. He accepted it, almost like a flower. He just exists. He doesn't think, and it's almost like a Buddhist, right? So I feel like majority of us lie in the first two categories, right? First two categories who tend to have our desires. We always want to chase happiness and comfort as humans, right? So it's interesting to think about how like us humans are actually much similar than we, may seem and appear to be, right? A lot of us end up being divided, unfortunately, but that's just the way life is, for when a lot of people think, right? They think that, everything is normal, right? Racism is normal because, it's just been like this for the age of time. Some people, it's just ridiculous, man. Like, and I feel like us humans are just so easily brainwashed nowadays. And yeah, that's honestly it for what I really want to talk about. But yeah, if you're still here, really appreciate you listening. I know this is a super long video, but there's a lot to cover, right? So yeah, have a great rest of the day or night. Really grateful and can't wait to work another 12 hours overtime. But yeah, take care all. Peace.